What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and I just finished episode 6 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I loved it, right? We'll talk about that here in a second, but there is one big thing that sticks out to me, and that's the whole thing with Princess Leia. Now, I get that Obi-Wan Kenobi told her, which, by the way, spoilers, obviously. I get that Obi-Wan Kenobi told her, you can't tell anybody about this, otherwise it'll jeopardize us both. And sure, that makes sense when you're 10. And you're like, okay, so like the Empire's out there, stuff's going on, so on and so forth. But as you get older, you learn about a thing called wisdom, and you learn to discern the difference between telling somebody something and being in like immediate death, or just waiting until a better time to do it. And I kind of feel like this is not really something you forget as you get older. It's not like she sat down and just had an amazing meal, and then by the time she's in her 30s or 40s, she just forgets, and it's like, I had a really good meal once, but I don't remember what it was. I feel like this is one of those things where you would think somewhere along the line, after finding out that Luke Skywalker is a Jedi and he's her brother, and he was trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi, kind of, but not really, and really more trained by Yoda, but like Obi-Wan Kenobi was an important figure in his life, you'd think somewhere along the line she'd be like, you know what, Luke, I remember there was a time when I hung out with Obi-Wan Kenobi when I was 10, and I was kidnapped and taken to a different world, and then rescued by Obi-Wan, and then eventually, like, I kind of met Darth Vader, but not really. The Empire was trying to kill us. I met a dark Jedi, almost died on several occasions. I mean, this is this is not something you forget. It's not one of these things where as the years go by, the memories just begin to fade. No, this is kind of a big deal. And so you'd think she would have brought it up. Either that, or even when she was older and the Empire was basically defeated, even though you had the First Order, which was not nearly as cool as the Empire was, and her son was a Jedi at the peak of his power, she still didn't think it was safe to tell him. I don't know. I don't know. That's the risk you take when you tell stories like this, involving characters that turn out to be wildly significant. That's just kind of how it goes. So I don't know how you make that make sense. I don't know how you explain why she never brought it up. I don't know how you square that circle. Having said that, that's really the only thing that stood out to me. That and how Reva survived, because I don't think we ever get an explanation. I think she's just there. And it's like, okay, so I guess she faked her death again, and I guess Darth Vader just didn't figure it out this time, like he legitimately believed she was dead, even though he obviously knew she was alive when she was faking dead among all those people. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously some plot holes in this episode. Having said that, everything else about it, I absolutely love. And honestly, it was just the Darth Vader stuff that I dug, right? And here's the thing. I feel like what they did with Darth Vader in this show gave him more development than any other depiction of Darth Vader, really outside of like Return of the Jedi. And here's the reason why I say that. I know it's gonna be a super controversial statement, but here's the reason why I say that. One, it's only predicated on episodes 1, 2, and 3, right? 1, 2, and 3 were basically the story of Anakin falling to the dark side and all that kind of stuff, right? I know that Darth Vader, as he appeared in episodes 4, 5, and 6, hold like a special place in like the Star Wars fandom's heart. And I know that like they don't wanna hear me say that I think this was better character development than anything we got in 4, 5, and 6. But I don't know what to tell you, right? That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. So here's the thing. When it came to this version, when it came to how he was depicted here, in that final fight between Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, that was amazing. Because historically speaking, whenever we saw Darth Vader, specifically in episodes 4, 5, and 6, and even during like, what was it, was it Rebels? I think Star Wars Rebels he showed up in. I don't think it was Clone Wars, because he was Anakin during Clone Wars. But the way that he was depicted, right, it was always just kind of like this, just really like a guy who quite literally lived up to the statement of Obi-Wan Kenobi when he was talking to Luke, that he's more machine than man, twisted and evil. And not even so far that he was evil, the fact that he was just so detached from everything. He had no real emotion at all, right? He was just removed. He was just a guy that was there and doing stuff that basically benefited the Empire and furthered their agenda. But for, like, if you look at him, he really does feel like a robot in a lot of ways. He does have emotion in terms of the inflection of his voice, right? When James Earl Jones is voicing him and all that kind of stuff, you do get inflection there. So obviously it's a person talking. But for the most part, until you get to like Empire Strikes Back, the fact that he learns that Luke is his son, even then, it's not a whole lot of emotion and that kind of stuff. By the time you get to the end of Return of the Jedi, when he turns to the light side, that's when you really start to get the emotional side of Anakin Skywalker. What you had here was great, because it's the same thing that I've been saying. This really shows us that, like, Anakin has not really become Darth Vader yet. He hasn't become the Darth Vader that we know. He's still very much Anakin Skywalker. Even if he says, like, you know, Anakin's dead, I'm the one who killed him, yada, 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 setting up the whole explanation for, you know, of Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker. You know, Anakin Skywalker was a really good friend of mine until he was killed by Darth Vader, and then he killed a whole bunch of younglings, and then went on a rampage and started killing all the Jedi that he could that weren't killed in Order 66, and all that kind of crazy stuff. Because one of the things you guys may not know, and I don't know if this is in continuity or not, although I feel like it is, Order 66 did not kill all the Jedi, right? Like, there were a lot of Jedi who survived, and Darth Vader actually started hunting them down, which was really, really cool. I don't remember if it's a comic or not. If it is, I absolutely want to cover it, but I feel like that might not necessarily be in continuity, although it wouldn't make it difficult to throw it in there. But the thing about it is, in this fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, he's still Anakin in virtually every way. And I just gotta throw it out there. How amazing did it look when Obi-Wan Kenobi like slashed his helmet, and you have like this split design where you've got Darth Vader on one side and Anakin on the other. And it's kind of interesting because you can look at it in different ways, right? You can see it as like the contrast between Anakin Skywalker and who he becomes, Darth Vader. But the reality here is, I don't think it was designed to be a contrast at all. I think it was designed to really just highlight how far Anakin Skywalker had fallen, and that Anakin really just is Darth Vader, inside and out. Like, there's no more Anakin anymore, right? There's no pulling him back to the light side or anything like that. Like, as far as Obi-Wan's concerned, this guy really is just a lost cause. And I thought it was really, really interesting because as I was looking at that, it was like, you would think the bond between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin was about as strong of a bond as it could get, right? A bond between father and son. But the irony of that is, it is a father and son bond that brings Anakin Skywalker back to the light side, but it's the father and son bond between Anakin and Luke. And that, I thought, was just a great juxtaposition there, right? That Obi-Wan Kenobi was very much a father figure for Anakin, but there was nothing he could do to save him. However, Luke is the son of Anakin, and Anakin didn't want to see his son fall to the dark side the same way he did, so he brings him back, right? Learning from his own mistakes, right? Saves him from killing the Emperor, right? It's one of the big fan theories out there that when, in that scene in Return of the Jedi, when the Emperor literally tells Luke, you know, take your lightsaber and strike me down. When Luke goes for it and Darth Vader blocks the shot, it's designed to keep Luke from falling to the dark side, right? Because if Luke killed the Emperor, he would have started falling down the path of the dark side. Literally, that was the first thing that Darth Vader did on this path to save his son. Of course, eventually trying to kill the Emperor, or at least presumably at the time killing the Emperor, and then telling his son, you know, tell your sister you were right and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, I loved this moment. To me, it wasn't really the duels between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, although those were cool. It wasn't really the duels necessarily that I loved so much. It was just the nature of the characters and the fact that Darth Vader was still Anakin in some capacity. And in fact, that runs all the way up until the very end, right? When you have him sitting at Mustafar in his little fortress, and he's talking to the Emperor, and it's like, we're gonna do everything we can to hunt this guy down. We're gonna find this guy, we're gonna kill him, right? We're gonna destroy Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just so encompassed by emotion and rage, so caught up about like capturing Obi-Wan, kind of like this itch that he can't scratch. And so when the Emperor chimes in, the Emperor's like, I mean, you're pretty emotional, bruh. Like you're pretty caught up in this. And of course, that's when Anakin basically backs off and is like, I only serve the Emperor. And so that's the kind of thing where it's like, that's when Darth Vader just seems to fully take hold, and he fully becomes the Darth Vader that we know, where he only serves the Emperor, and that's basically it. But that emotional side of him, right, that human side of him never fully goes away, hence the connection that he had with Luke Skywalker. If anything, he just kind of hit it well. Now, in the comics, there's a lot of explanation there, right? In the comics, like if you ever go back and read those, and we're covering them on Comics Explained right now, in the comics, that part of Darth Vader never goes away, right? Like, there's a point where he doesn't trust trust the explanation that the Emperor gave him in saying that, like, you know, he had basically killed Padme. So he goes and hunts for like Padme's body, how she died and that kind of stuff, like goes on this kind of personal journey, deviating away from his own quest. And the Emperor does stuff to try to bring him back, but at the end of the day, that part of Anakin never disappears. But I loved that whole thing, right? I love that this was kind of this series was sort of the tail end, right? Kind of wrapping up that plot thread of how far gone is Anakin Skywalker, right? Like, when does Anakin Skywalker fully become Darth Vader as we know him? Again, I dug it. I thought it was really, really cool. Having said all of that, for the character of Reva, looking at the show in its entirety and kind of looking at it in hindsight, I loved the character of Reva. What purpose did she serve? Right? I mean, I get that she was there as kind of like the antagonist that was hunting down, you know, Obi-Wan and by extension, Princess Leia and that kind of a thing, right? She was basically the immediate threat, whereas Darth Vader was kind of the overall looming threat. But looking at it as kind of like, what was the point of her? I wish they'd done a little bit more with her. I do like that she got her kind of redemption arc, that basically she had like saved the life of Luke Skywalker because she didn't want to become Darth Vader, and then brought Luke back to his aunt and uncle. It was kind of a funny thing. This you know, when I was watching the episode, that statement by Beru when she was like, "No, like we are enough to save Luke Skywalker. Right? You know, we're enough." And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, "Are you though?" Because like in episode 4, you get turned into crispy critters. So maybe you're a little off with that statement. You know, I mean, they offered a great distraction, but like, as we know with Aunt Beru, right, and Uncle Owen, they don't make it, man, right? They get fried. They get charred. So, you know, like it was kind of a funny little statement there. I don't know if that was designed to be ironic, but I was like, you know, you don't quite make it, folks. But back to Reva, you know, overall, I wish they'd done a little bit more with her. Having said that, I would like to see more of her story. I don't know if I would watch like a full-on series about her, but I would love it if they like transferred her to like maybe comics or something along those lines and just kind of told her story about how she survived in comics, because I'm very curious about that. I'm very curious about the story of Reva, you know, to see like how she went from the youngling that survived Order 66 and the Jedi Purge to everything that transpired over that point in time. And honestly, the benefit of doing it in a comic book form is you'll get these kind of moments, right, where like Darth Vader will be keeping an eye on her, right, or he'll be asking the Inquisitor, like, what's going on with Reva? And the Inquisitor's like, everything is proceeding as planned, Lord Vader. And he's like, yes, I will find Obi-Wan Kenobi soon, you know, that kind of a thing. It'd be cool, you know, I would love to see that. But again, you know, there's a few things that stuck out to me as a little bit strange, but all in all, I thought it was a great show. I had a great time watching it. I know they had it listed as the season finale instead of the series finale, so I assume they're gonna go with the season 2. To be honest, I think they're gonna gauge the show, right? They're just gonna gauge the viewership of the show. They're gonna look at audience retention, see how much of the show people were watching, things like that, and then ask the question, is it worth going through with a second season? I think the beauty of the way this season ended is they could just call it a day. They could just wrap it up here. They could never do a second season, and then we just go directly into what's basically episode 4, and that's it. It's cool because a lot of the things that we would that happen in episode 4 makes sense based on what we've seen, right? Like in episode 4, Darth Vader tells Obi-Wan Kenobi, the last time we met, I was but the learner and you were the master. And this one, in the end of, or at least in this fight in Obi-Wan Kenobi, like he refers to him as master. So he still sees him as a master, even if only kind of a mocking way. He still doesn't necessarily see himself on the same level as Obi-Wan, at least in title, you know, but it carries over, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So a lot of those threads just connect, right? A lot of those things just kind of allow us to segue directly into episode 4, which I think is cool. Honestly, I don't know what they would really do with season 2. What I would really want to see is I would want to see a TV series focused on Darth Vader where they bring back, if it's not in continuity, they bring back the whole like continuing purge of the Jedi following Order 66, where Vader's traveling across the galaxy and hunting down various Jedi and destroying them. The truth here is I would love to see that done, and basically there could be a kind of overarching plot. I don't know what that overarching plot would be. It'd likely be a character plot for Darth Vader, but I would like to see like each individual episode is him tracking down a Jedi, right? Like he kills a different Jedi in each episode, but it serves as part of the larger plot that's going on with Darth Vader himself. But nonetheless, you know, the show is great. I had a great time watching it. It was an absolute blast. Thought it was cool. Would I go back and like watch it again of my own accord? Probably not. And that's not really a shot against the show. It's just, it was cool and it was fun. I don't know if I'd really go back and just see it again. I don't really have the drive to do so. But then again, I'm more of like a Marvel Comics fan. I'm not a super hardcore Star Wars fan. So for those of you guys out there who are super hardcore Star Wars fans, let me know what you all think. I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of waiting for the replies where people are like, I hate Reva because she was just so emotional and she was reckless, which was okay when it was Anakin, but it's not okay because it's her. You know, I'm waiting for that. I think it's gonna be funny, but for real and for true though, right? Like, give me your opinions on the show. Let me know what you all think. But with that being said, we're gonna bring this to an end. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.